like Wahle. If you're enjoying it, hit that subscribe button, rate and review us. The Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs overcome the Philadelphia Eagles 38 to 35. There's over 750 yards of offense in this game, okay? And I think I think my over-under was at 57. I think that the official over-under was at 51, but nobody thought they were going to drop. I mean, what is that? 73 points in the Super Bowl. And what it came down to, honestly, was this offensive line play was extraordinary. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the field conditions when we get into this tape, but what I really want to focus on today is there's kind of, as good as the Kansas City Chiefs team played, there's kind of the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line and then everybody else. And I want to show a little bit what makes them so special, what makes them so unique, how just being the best of the basics, being simplistic, doing things the right way, just being in front of somebody makes a huge difference in the game. Let's go right to the tape and not waste any more time. So I just broke a lot of this down sequentially. So we're going to see a little bit of Philly, a little bit of Kansas City, because both teams played at an extremely high level. Again, you dropped 73 points in the Super Bowl, 750 yards of offense between the two teams. We had actually 158 yards rushing by the Kansas City Chiefs, whereas the Eagles only had, in quote, 115, which is, I guess, somewhat surprising if you boil it down to what you thought was going to happen, being the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs run or throw the ball 65% of the time. But this is the kind of game that it called for. The Philadelphia Eagles like to play that old too high shell style of Vic Fangio-esque type of defense, and they'll give up some running lanes. They certainly did this game, but really the interior of that offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs showed out. The edges were taken care of, both by the great play of Andrew Wahle and Oline Brown Jr., but of course, we cannot talk about this game if we don't talk about how bad the turf was and how it affected these teams. Let's start off with the Philadelphia Eagles. And basically, when you're running inside zone, any team in the National Football League, but really you think about the Philadelphia Eagles, what are you trying to do? You're trying to win the double team. So right now across the line, Lane Johnson, Iyexemeloa, Jason Kelce, Lennon Dickerson, and then, of course, Mulata. There's only one double team on the board here, and that's going to be between left guard Jason Dickerson and Jason Kelce. What we're expecting and what they're hoping for is that the right guard and the right tackle just basically can break even, and that the left tackle can ward off the defensive end. The tight end that's off the hip of the left tackle, showing kind of it could be a split flow look. I think right now that's not what they're thinking based on formation because of where the running back is. They usually don't do too much same side split flow look for the Philadelphia Eagles, and so we're going to look at this double team. And this is like first, second play of the game. So we're just looking at single block. When you look at the inside zone for the National Football League right now, play side tackle doesn't have a lot to do. I mean, a lot of them will just pass set and wall off. It really is all about what's getting done by the guard, two guards and the tackle, particularly where the double team is if they have one. You just see 91 gets absolutely trucked. They're up to the linebacker. A couple things happen here to make this play not work. Number one, Karlaftis goes inside. They're bringing Reed off the corner. So Karlaftis slants inside and kind of shuts down the gap. And then Chris Jones does a good job of resetting the line of scrimmage against the right guard, Iyexemeloa. And so this play ends up getting stretched out and bounced. But I just wanted to show the double teams work. Sometimes you're not going to win those one-on-one blocks, especially against an all-pro like Chris Jones. But those double teams, these guys, there's nobody better in the business than they are. We go to pass protection now. And I want you to look at the body position of all of these guys once we get into contact. Okay. So I highlighted the three guys that aren't on the double team. So the double team, you're going to go against Chris Jones. You're going to take your center to Chris Jones if nobody comes. I mean, that's what the expectation is going to be for most of the game. In other words, if the center has a hole call, if he doesn't have a direction that he has to go to the right, he has to go to the left, he's probably going to go to Chris Jones because Chris Jones is, I think, 16.5 sack all-pro guy. Look at the body position of everybody else. So they've taken two kicks, 2.5 kicks, and everybody is still chest towards the line of scrimmage, body position directly between the defensive end and the quarterback, or the defensive tackle and the quarterback. In other words, the defensive end or the defensive tackle cannot run around them right now to get to the quarterback. They literally have to go through them. That is such a simple concept that we do not spend enough time on. Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata in particular, obviously Landon Dickinson here, they all win with body position and footwork. Their footwork and their body position put them in a place where they are going to be extremely successful. And the other side of it is because the Kansas City Chiefs weren't sliding around everywhere like the Philadelphia Eagles were. One of the reasons is, in particular with 55 and 56, the defensive ends, they're always having to go down the middle and bull rush because those two tackles get out to their real estate spots under control with square body positions, and they make it so trying to take an edge, all those pass rush moves that you spend all offseason working on, those don't work if you're right in the if the offensive tackle is right down the middle of the defensive end. All those moves are designed to attack edges, to attack elbows, to attack armpits. If you have to go right down the middle every time with a bull rush and work off that, the moves just aren't the same. They're not as effective. And quite frankly, it usually turns into a secondary move off of some kind of bull rush. But because of these, you just see, for most of this game, I mean, these are perfect pockets for Jalen Hurts. I mean, these are easy complete. That third down completion, easy completion. That was a hit by Reed now. Unbelievable. You see the next one here. Frank Clark does a good job. Frank Clark is a guy that is going to, number 55, is going to run upfield a couple times a game. And he'll run the loop even though he knows he's not going to get there. But he's like, if I can get this guy to turn too early, maybe I'll club him back. Maybe every once in a while I'll do my ghost rush, and he just won't be expecting me to try to run the loop. So he'll run upfield a couple times to run himself out of the play. But you look at the body position across the line. You look at Lane Johnson, you look at Seumalo, and then you look at Jason Kelce. Now, Landon Dickerson's just going to shut the door on 91 here. And as soon as he shuts the door, Jalen Hurts has an easy exit route. It doesn't really matter whether anybody's open or not at this point because that's the kind of offense that they run. Jalen Hurts is looking at it like, that's 10 free yards. I'm going to take it. We'll get another first down. They get a bunch of personnel over here on the right side of the screen, left side of the offensive line. You've got Devontae Smith over here, number 6. I believe this is 12 personnel with a receiver on the outside on the right side of the screen, left side of the offensive line. And we're just going to run double teams. And again, those double teams have to win. So you look at the two doubles right here. We're going to double Kelce over to Reed, and we're going to double the left side of the offensive line over to number 50, Willie Gay. And just look at the movement that these guys get on a consistent basis, particularly left guard, left tackle. I mean, that is that's teach tape. And we can start, I can really sit here and break down footwork and pad level and whatnot because they all go at a 2-point stance. They manage to get good leverage and good pad level. It's a testament to how they're coached and how much detail is demanded of what they do from the initial footwork and bend standpoint. But just watching the result and enjoying the result right now, that is an absolute beatdown that the left guard, left tackle just gave that right defensive tackle. Now we're doing the same thing. We're just going double team to the other side, down on the goal line. And listen, there's only one thing that's going to happen here. Linebackers are going to hit early. You see 50, Willie Gay comes in early and tries to break up that double team. Kelce does such a good job, and this is a point you kind of want to highlight. Kelce does such a good job of staying on these. But you watch Isaac Seumalo now. I would say Kelce because he is traditionally kind of the one that stands out with these as being super, super patient, not getting off that double team. You don't want to leave your double team. You want that guy, that linebacker, to just run right into you. There's no reason to detach if he's going to go ahead and cause confrontation right here. Watch the right guard. Great second step into contacts, trying to set that edge. Lane Johnson's drive. We get 50, is now out of the play. Those guys are now effectively out of the play. Everyone's been moved over. The tight ends did a good job on the backside. They had an inverted look here on the backside with the tight ends. And so the tight end on the line of scrimmage is trying to cut off Carlos Dunlap. We're going to have an inside release by the hipped-off tight end and just make sure that inside lane is secure. They're going to get that double team in the event that Carlos tries to shut that down. And they do a really nice job here of getting to the line of getting back to the line of scrimmage. We go to the Chiefs now. And one thing I wanted to show is we can talk about this. There's dozens of times during the game that people slip. And why does it matter? Because the Kansas City Chiefs, if we go back to the beginning of this play, Orlando Brown, we think about how the Philadelphia Eagles kick, how the best tackles in the league kick, and a lot of them are kicking back. So you imagine your left foot's on that line right there. After 2 or 3 kicks, you want that right foot to be no further over than that line. And you can see that Orlando Brown, and the reason that you do that is you can stay square to the line of scrimmage for longer, and all those moves that we just talked about, the guys are teaching. Chuck Smith does a great job, in particular, of teaching these D linemen all these different moves. He's talking about smelling your breath, getting to elbows, getting to armpits, attacking edges. That's only possible if you turn your body. But see, in his first kick, he's already gotten out, so now it's a short corner. And you see Josh Sweat really hasn't beat right here. Hasn't beat dead to rights. Now, the good news is the interior offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to talk in particular about Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey. I think Trey Smith did a great job as well. Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey could be the MVPs for this game. They played that well. But because they stalemated a plethora of Pro Bowl and All-Pro defensive tackles at the line of scrimmage, around the line of scrimmage, stopped their pass rush for the most part during the entire day, Pat Mahomes had a place to throw, and he had a place to step up. He had a place to escape. Now, with this play in particular, this kind of shows this is early in the game. I think this might be even the second play of the game. And you see what happens here with Sweat. Hits the deck. You see Hassan Reddick's hitting off a block from a tight end. You see him on the bottom right of the screen. He's also hitting the deck. This really, really affected the speed rushers on the outside for these guys. And what happens is once you slow down Hassan Reddick and once you slow down Josh Sweat, you're not looking at, in Hassan Reddick's case, a 6'1", 245-pound guy who's being shot out of a cannon that can, move every which way, play with leverage, play with traction. Once you take that traction away, all of a sudden he is now, essentially on the same level athletically as the right tackle was or as the left tackle was. Like, he can't move that much faster anymore, and he certainly can't cut, and he can't use his leverage. So now it turns into a bullet being shot out of a gun at 6'1", 245-pound bullet to a guy who's moving a little bit slower, who can't cut, who doesn't have a good base because of the turf. Now every time you get a hold of him, you can put him in the ground. Every time he tries to plant, he falls down. Every time he tries to redirect, he falls down. Changes the game completely. Now, one thing that's different from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Kansas City Chiefs, this is a good example. They're comfortable, and we go back, and this is that penny defense that Philly likes to run from time to time. Penny being, we go 5 down, single linebacker here. We got Gardner Johnson in the box, accounting for the tight end. It's usually man coverage. So they're going to push to Gardner Johnson with Creed Humphrey here. And they're comfortable not really double teaming. So they had a nose tackle and a 4-eye. And they're just letting Joe Thuney and Trey Smith take those guys one-on-one. And this is a phenomenal job of displacing by Joe Thuney. Now we're booking 57 here because they still have to read the jet sweep, or they have to read the Pat Mahomes on the keep. So they're booking one player. They're just having Andrew Wiley cut off on the backside. But really good job by both guards of just creating a lane against, all-pro caliber players. Of course, Creed Humphrey gets up on Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson's a great player who had a great year, but Gardner Johnson versus Creed Humphrey in a phone booth is going to be a problem. This guy runs angry. Fun to watch. Really fun to watch. All right, so we get down a little bit further. Still that first drive, and you just look at hand placement. Body position by Trey Smith isn't necessarily perfect. Joe Thuney's got pretty good body position as far as where his hips are engaged. But you just look at hand placement. Hands are inside. A little thing. Win with your hands. And they're both extending. They're trying to punch and extend with their hands. Keep those defensive tackles away from their body. That's Fletcher Cox. That's Hall of Fame caliber player Fletcher Cox. And you look at now Hassan Reddick, because Wiley's got him back and he's gotten to those multiple kicks, and now really the only way to get to Pat Mahomes, where Pat Mahomes is standing currently, is to go through him. In other words, if Hassan Reddick tries to run the loop right now, there just isn't enough space. He's got about, let's say 7 yards, and he has to get up about another 4. It's just not going to happen. So he has to go through, and now you're playing into the right tackle's wheelhouse right now. That's exactly what he wants. Wiley, if he could get back every time and say, Hassan Reddick, I dare you to try to bull rush me every play, that would be the ideal scenario, obviously, because he probably weighs 315 and Hassan Reddick's 6'1", 250, 245. Touchdown here to Kelsey. Kelsey had a big first drive, big first half, obviously. We go back to the Eagles. Jason Kelsey head on a swivel. Now, there's only one scenario here that you don't really like, and that's how Mailata has turned his body early. He's allowed Carlos Dunlap to get his head into his chest. He's catching. body position's high, bad angles. And so what's going to happen here? Inevitably, he's going to open up, and he's probably going to try to push Dunlap high over the top of Jalen Hurts, but this is a pocket that could collapse very easily, as you can imagine. What matters here the most is they do a good job of passing off the game here on the bottom, but because Dickerson does such a good job here with Chris Jones, I mean, it's Chris Jones. Now, Landon Dickerson's a Pro Bowler, but Chris Jones has had one heck of a year now, and so even though they might get a sniff here of Jalen Hurts able to escape, could get rid of this ball, gets rid of it finally, but this happens over time. In other words, these guys aren't showing up very fast. That Frank Clark shows up a little bit late because on that delayed TE, they actually, quite frankly, both guard and center thought he was blocked. Now, this is K4, K5. Now, when you watch the San Francisco 49ers against Hassan Reddick, you're wondering, why didn't they run this? Why didn't they run somebody over to help their tight end early in the game, first series, so that Hassan Reddick didn't take out Brock Purdy and effectively end their playoff run? Well, they do a good job here at the Kansas City Chiefs of going with a jet sweep motion, bringing him in here, so now they can use him to run the fake handoff, and they can send McKinnon right over to get inside out on Hassan Reddick. And now they've got essentially K4 protection, which is a four-man slide, so they can run a little bit here, get these linebackers to suck up, stop the initial pass rush of the defensive ends and defensive tackle. And now Hassan Reddick's 2-on-1 here, and you're just saying Noah Gray and McKinnon, we trust that you guys can stay upright, especially in a situation like it is right now. Does a good job of coming inside. But because Pat Mahomes switches his launch point, these are all important things. Hassan Reddick tries to take that inside, sees that Mahomes is rolling out to switch that launch point. Of course, he ends up stopping, but that forces Hassan Reddick to redirect. And then as we see here on that play action, once Kelsey gets in this spot, he's going to win. What I wanted to show in particular with the linebackers, watch what happens because of the footing as he tries to make this cut. I mean, this is just deplorable by the National Football League that it looks like he's on a slip and slide for when I was 5 years old in Rialto, California. If you look at this play and you freeze frame it, I would be very comfortable guessing that Wahle's beat right now. He's going to be able to run the corner. He's got the edge. He's got the arm. He's going to be able to rip through here and get that foot around. I'm talking about that inside foot. He's going to be able to take that, pivot on his toe, get around the side. But because of the turf, he's not able to do that. Now, maybe more importantly, all of these other guys, they're running a little ET game over here, but Trey Smith is locking out. Arms are locked out away from the body. Stops the pass rush. Stops the initial motion of Ndamukong Suh. You see that Hassan Reddick, his foot slips. You can actually see where his foot slipped out on the turf and the grass kicked up. Wahle's going to bury him, as he should. Now gives Pat Mahomes time to run and throw the ball away. Could have been a disaster. Ends up being just another play. 5-on-5, hardest thing to account for. What most people think is, oh, this is great. You get 5-on-5. You send Willie Gay into the A gap to attack the center. What does that do? That takes everybody else and puts them on a one-on-one situation. Here's what most people don't understand. When you take away that A gap, so in other words, Chris Jones right now, Karlaftis, all these guys, they kind of feel like they have a place they have to go now. Like when you run a dog or a blitz, there's a gap you have to take. So the idea of having a 2 or 3-way go, it really, most of these rushes will be the most mediocre rushes individually that you'll see because they're just trying to get bodies on bodies. And it's a mistake that I think in the way that a lot of things are taught, or just maybe the way we try to conceptualize them. When Willie Gay takes up Jason Kelsey, these guys should be running the best moves they have, wiggle inside preferably because they're not going to have inside help. They should run games that end up with that maybe a TE with the end coming underneath because the center is not going to be able to help. When we don't do that, we just make it kind of these very easy rushes. You see Chris Jones, for example, is just going right down the middle. These passes and these pockets are really easy to pick up on. Now, I'm not talking, you could be the Chicago Bears, you could be the Kansas City Chiefs. When you rush that center in the A gap with the linebacker, he's going to be able to slow him at the line of scrimmage. and then you rush everybody else, and they're just going to kind of power rush or bull rush. They're not going to give you their best stuff and take that inside edge, knowing that they don't have help to the inside. Like, you're actually making it easier for the offense. A lot of people think it's going to be the hardest situation. It's not. Back to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is something that Kelsey does that I just love. So they snap this ball. He runs a little play action. He just takes a hard left and runs over and slams into the right defensive tackle. And obviously, it looks like we have a man coverage here on 89 on the linebacker on the tight end. But he gets influenced by Kelsey. Imagine what this does to your pass rush right there. When you come over like that, you see everybody sucked up again. Look at the pocket. I mean, it really is. When I say that Philadelphia Eagles are just a little bit different than everybody else, they did leave a tight end in. But this is actually have two tight ends in the way we ended up blocking this. They have help with the right guard as well. But you see this during the course of the game where he just has all day to let this go. He can step into every throw. Big play to A.J. Brown here. Five-on-five. This is a true 5-on-5 look. And this is what the Philadelphia Eagles defense is designed for. They're going to say, hey, we're comfortable. We're going to bring 5 because we feel like we can get home. And they did a phenomenal job, for the most part, Kansas City Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes of being, magician in the pocket, of staying out of problem areas. Now, right here again, you look at Hassan Reddick's got that long arm. He's going to turn Wiley's got that inside hand. You think he's going to be able to win inside here. But because Creed Humphrey, again, could have been an MVP in this game, basically has his rusher at the line of scrimmage. Like, what has that guy gotten off? A yard, 2 yards? Talking about Jordan Davis. He's big first-round draft pick from Georgia, going to be a big-time player. But Creed gloves him up. Everybody else does a great job. And he's going to end up getting his hand on Pat Mahomes because he's escaping here. But really, that's not a play that he deserves to make. You see Creed here again. And this is a great job because Sue's not the kind of player anymore that is going to just try to jump and win that gap. He's going to try to beat you with his hands and then try to rip through if you give him that opportunity. Otherwise, he's going to scan a little bit. He's when he was younger, he's trying to take that A gap right now. He'll run through that hand. But right now, he's going to read. He'll try to swipe. He'll try to read the quarterback and then come off late. He might almost like a spy technique. So you look at Creed here. He holds, and once he sees that there might be an opportunity to take ribs, he takes ribs on the left guard's player, number 93, Milton Williams. You see Orlando Brown Jr. has run his player past. We had an inside spin over here on Wiley. I don't know, inside spin's the best move for Hassan Reddick in this turf, but again, because of the inside spin, opens up the pocket to the right. Creed's given him plenty of room. He could throw the ball. He doesn't really need to go anywhere, but it's Pat Mahomes. Do what you want to do. Ends up making another big play. A lot of time to throw, a lot of area to throw in, a lot of area to step up. Great job by the offensive line. We got 4-on-5. Again, the turf. You got 2 guys. Brandon Graham's going for the stab bull. We're going for an outside swipe rip over here, and both guys slip, end up on the turf again. You see what happens to the pocket. We got a great double team over on the right defensive tackle. Trey Smith's holding it down over there against the left defensive tackle, and Pat Mahomes has. I mean, that's how you draw it up. That's clinic. When you're teaching offensive line play, when you're teaching pocket awareness, pocket presence, this is what you hope for. You hope for a huge green circle in the middle of the field that's 10 yards in diameter that your quarterback can just play around in as long as he wants. You can almost slip and fall over. I mean, it's amazing. Ends up being a huge play in the game. Now you could say it's a huge play because they fell over. Yeah, but this is part of the circumstances that you have to come with. Got another 5-down look here. I just wanted to figure out what this was exactly, what kind of blocking scheme they have here. So you look at this, they got the guy in jet motion, and this guy just ends up, that's a bad look right there. But we got 5-on-5. Now, Pat Mahomes in this second half in particular, his snap to throw was the quickest in any second half in his entire career. So that, of course, is going to help out what your offensive line is trying to accomplish. Not to take anything away from anybody. It's just these are the facts as they stand. Let's check out a couple more from the Philadelphia Eagles. We got a 4-down offensive line, or 4-down defensive front. Again, I just want to show the body position. The body position matters. This is why they're on a different level than everybody else, because everyone's kind of bought into this idea that I should be able to see both your numbers from the end zone copy. If I should be able to see both tackles' numbers, their entire number, their entire name, after 2.5 kicks, after 3 kicks. And then you're allowed to turn. So now I believe that Carlos Dunlap's going inside here on Jordan Mailata, so he's going to have to redirect anyway. Does a great job. Dickerson's he's going to clamp that outside hand, wins with his inside hand. We got the double team between Kelsey and the right guard, and then you see Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson is just, we just call this settling. So he took his kicks, he's just settling. Frank Clark's over there, and Frank's not going to have really anywhere to go. The only option Frank Clark is going to have is try to maybe chop the outside arm and run a huge loop, but it's never going to make it. He knows that already, so he's probably just going to go straight into a bull here because he doesn't have any other options. This is what happens if you get to your real estate spot under control. You have absolutely no chance. You see again, this is a pocket that you just don't expect to see with the normalcy rate that you do with the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl against a great team like the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a sack, by the way. So Jalen Hurts got sacked twice. That was considered a sack. So that's what we get for sacks now. It's because of where he jumped out of bounds. Got the same look here. They're running a twist game over here. Sometimes when we lean on that 3 technique, it opens us up a little bit. But again, you just look. I can see numbers. I can see all the numbers. I can't see the right guard number because they're running that TE quick. So Chris Jones has run up the field and is trying to create that crease. It's really tough to do with the way Lane Johnson sets. He's so aware, and because he's essentially just backing up and saying square, passing off games is much, much easier this way. This is why everybody should be teaching this for their offensive line unit. Tons of time, great pocket. Again, it's just really, really impressive. Kansas City Chiefs, second half, multiple times came out in 13 personnel. And I don't remember the stats if they ran more than they threw in the second half, but they got into 13 personnel a handful of times and just ran the football. And what Orlando Brown Jr. does to Javon Hargraves here, and then we got a great double team between Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey. But oh my goodness gracious, I mean this is what you pay the man for. Give that man his money. Javon Hargraves is one of the more impressive defensive tackles this year. Got turned completely around in a 360 right there, as did the left defensive tackle. But that was essentially a one. Yeah, look at I didn't even see that. We got to go back. We'll just take a quick look at 57 here, all by himself, letting everybody know, right? Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what he wanted respect on his name. He got it. Believe it. All right, so we look at these sets, though, again. These sets are problematic. These sets are, and this is why everybody during the week was like, this is going to be a problem for, myself included, this is going to be a problem for the Kansas City Chiefs. These defensive ends are going to give both these tackles a hard time, and it was just because the way they set. They set out. You see their shoulders are turned. I can't see both of their numbers after a kick and a half. And so they've put their backs or they've put their chest to the sideline, depending on how you want to look at it. Now, I really have a three-way go if I'm a defensive end. But because of the turf, because of everything that's happening here, they just can't get. And look at Andrew Wahle, man. I mean, this maybe you call it a hold, maybe you don't. But, man, you just got to love the way this guy played. He had a game. He just had himself a day. Fun to watch. You think of the inside guys again, and we look at the line of scrimmage. Creed Humphrey, his man hasn't gone off the line of scrimmage. We're single blocked over here. He had help with Trey Smith, at least with a hand check. We look over here, Joe Thuney coming over from the New England Patriots 2 years ago on a huge free agent deal. Arms extended, body position, hips engaged. I mean, it's just clinic, man. When you win with your hands and your feet, your body position, you're just giving your quarterback opportunities to step up and throw. Now, Orlando Brown Jr. gets up because we get a little bit of drift from the quarterback here. as far as he's going to step to his left. And so it feels like, Josh Smith's a little bit closer maybe than he is, but look at the lane he has if he wants to run, if he wants to step in the pocket, if he wants to throw to Kelsey right here. Unbelievable job on the single block by Joe Thuney, I think. Now, interesting play. This happened a bunch of times in the second half in particular. This happened on the first touchdown for Kelsey. Kelsey motions in. These guys are playing man, so they have to switch leverage responsibilities, right? So they either have to just flip-flop, we're going to take different guys, or one has to run up, the other one has to run back because they want to be at different levels so they don't get picked. All right, so super interesting. The Kansas City Chiefs saw that early. They took advantage of it early. I'm sure they saw it on film, but they had a whole recipe or menu of plays to run out of this. Some of them are big plays for touchdowns. Others are just real simple. We're going to go up and then drive across. Easy pitch and catch. I mean, just so many catches in the second half for Pat Mahomes that were under 10 yards, but just getting the job done. Once again, ball's getting out fast, but if the ball's getting out fast, the defensive line knows that there's pressure to win early. If they don't win early, they might slow down. This is the Super Bowl. That's in a regular season game. Like, their timer's going off, right? But in the Super Bowl, you're just trying to win. It's 5-on-5. Great pocket. Now, again, Orlando Brown Jr. is in a little bit of a bad position. He's going to end up getting Josh Sweat's ended up getting a hand on Mahomes after the throw here. But you look at everybody else. Wiley's gotten back on Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham has to go through him, has to try to do that inside stab bull. We got Trey Smith. Javon Hargrave trying to rip through him. Joe Thuney's got his guy gloved up. And Creed Humphrey's got his guy gloved up. And the passing lanes, I mean, there's so many, as good as these defensive lines are, man, it was crazy how many just clinic pockets there were in this game. This is the other sack, I believe. So they run a little play action, and Chris Jones just inside rips on Landon Dickerson. We want to break this down a little bit more. He goes from a 3 technique across. It's kind of an interesting move. If you look at Chris Jones is over the left guard, right defensive tackle on our side of the screen. And he goes right into him because he's got his outside hand down. He steps right into him, but he attacks that inside shoulder with his inside arm, and now he can just rip through. You see that Kelsey's fully engaged, so there's a huge chasm between the center and the left guard. When a guy like Chris Jones sees that, because of his size and leverage, he's looking at that like that's free real estate for me. I think I'm going to be able to dip, use my leverage, use my strength, use my body position, and now get upfield. And just all they're trying to do really is get Jalen Hurts to move. Again here, that's the other sack of the day. Play action pass. They pull the guard. It's just such a great look. It's amazing what this does. You usually don't think about being able to run a play action pass like this where your tight end's not staying in. You're just running 5-man protection. You're actually just pulling a guard on the backside, and your center is able to account for that guy without getting beat around the loop. Wahle does a good job of attacking. We get the double team down on the 3 technique. And now, Landon Dickerson, this is a tough, that is a legitimate tough block on Carlos Dunlap. Carlos Dunlap can do whatever he wants. If that's Julius Peppers back in the day, and I got to go over there and pull and try to block Julius, and Julius sees that it's going to be a pass, man, like, you are not feeling good about that. This is a fantastic job by Landon Dickerson. And because this is such a phenomenal job, they just get all kinds of space for Jalen Hurts. Launches this thing down to Devonta Smith. Big play in the game. I think this is the play that set up the play to go into the touchdown, 2-point conversion. They tied the game up at 35 all. That was in many ways, that was a complete masterclass by both offensive lines in the way that they moved the football, the way they protected the quarterback, the way that they ran, especially inside in those double teams on both sides of the football. We throw in Orlando Brown Jr., that big play on Javon Hargraves, but the field was a real issue, and it was certainly an issue, and you can see why. Hopefully, it was more of an issue for the Philadelphia Eagles because of the way that the Kansas City Chiefs tackle set, and then the opportunities there are to beat those guys. You're going to beat them on the edge. You're going to beat them with leverage. You're going to beat them outside. You're going to run that loop. But if you can't run it because you can't get your foot in the ground, if you can't get off the ball, if you can't redirect, all of a sudden you're just a guy who weighs 50 pounds less than the dude you're trying to run through, and that becomes very problematic. It certainly happened all over the line of scrimmage. I mean, a day like Sunday for the Super Bowl is an offensive lineman's dream. Anytime the field is slippery, I say this all the time. If I woke up in Green Bay and it was raining outside, I was like, going to be a good day today, Tater. Like, it's going to be a good day because first of all, the other team doesn't know what cleats to wear, how they should deal with it. And they got their studs on, or they got their moldeds on, then they switch to studs. Then by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, they might realize they need to put a big triangle of like 1-inch studs into their shoes. By then, they probably don't care because they're so fed up with falling on the ground, getting knocked around, not being able to plant, not being able to cut, not being able to be the dynamic players that they want to be. Having said all that, you still got to go out there and block them. That was a phenomenal job by both teams. That's why you get 750 yards of offense. A lot of fun to watch. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be like that every week, but going into the offseason with both offensive lines dominating, regardless of who won the game, was awesome. Hope you've enjoyed this stuff this year. We're going to get into a little more maybe draft class, some offseason free agents. We're going to get into just technique-based stuff and how to improve. So coaches, players, personnel, whoever, if you have questions, hit me up, MikeWall68, Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. You can always leave comments on the Process to Perform channel here on YouTube. Hope you've enjoyed all this stuff. We'll talk